Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel with me, Shiva Wilson, and today I have my girlfriend Ilena from the channel Accidental Warrior to do an interview about legalising recreational cannabis and also medical cannabis in general in the UK. So to start off, just going to go over the basics. So have you ever tried or used cannabis?
Yes.
Yes? Regrettably. So what was your experience of it?
The first few times I had it was, I don't know, back in so I was obviously 18 years old at least when I first had it. I first had it because number one, all my friends, for some strange reason, not myself, were all smokers. But then about a third of them were hippie stoners, and they always had stuff on them. And you know the deal. So you have a pint or something, you're at the pub, and then they pass around the stuff. So like a peace pipe ritual or something. And all Native Americans, not really, but. And half the time I didn't know what was going on because I thought it was just cigarettes, and there's been times where I've been tricked as well, but which is maybe for later. But I ended up not really enjoying it so much because I thought it was a bit too strong in general, but I'm quite sensitive to stuff. But that's how I first had it, just when it was being passed around. In a beer garden.
So you didn't enjoy it the first time around?
I didn't notice it because I probably was drunk, so I didn't have much of, when you just turn 18, you just, I don't know, it's not, it was, the effects were nice, but it's hard to tell what was what, really. I didn't have much. But I was quite sensitive to it, so I probably start telling everyone I love them or something of the sorts. But if you're lightweight when it comes to alcohol, you might find yourself doing the same thing anyway.
Yeah. So now you're a medical cannabis patient. Yep.
Yep.
And so when and how did you become aware that medical cannabis is a thing and that it's legal in the UK?
I had no idea because I was born yesterday, when, as the expression goes. I had no idea until, well, you mentioned it. And because I'm mad because I keep saying and ands.
I think we should shout out to Drew is sharing as well, the green haired guy. Because he was the one who let me know about it.
Really?
Yeah.
He talked to you directly?
No, it's just his video showed up.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
I had no idea at all about this stuff. At first I thought, oh wow, this sounds dodgy as hell, but when I'd heard that it was being used experimentally for people with epilepsy, and that it could help people with PTSD and people with autism and ADHD, I was starting to think, well, if it already exists and you mentioned it and you figured out through somebody else, I thought, okay, why not? It's just at first I was a little bit apprehensive. I just thought this can't be real, but apparently it is.
So which medical cannabis clinic are you with?
Do I need to mention it in the interview? Is it preferable?
Yeah,
are we just promoting them?
It lets people know what clinics there are out there, I suppose.
But then maybe all the people go on that clinic, and then there'll be none left for me. Because anytime I wanted something, it's always out of stock, unfortunately. But that's I don't know. If you want, so my medical.
And why did you choose them?
The main reason was, compared to all the other clinics, is that it had the lowest rates, lowest prices. If you are on the NHS or if you're on disability and things like that.
You mean universal credit?
Yes, yeah, that. So it's a lot cheaper because you still have to pay anyway for an initial consultation, but it has cheaper rates for people who do not have a full-time job, and that was the main reason, really, just trying to be cost effective, really.
Yep. So what's your experience with Biomedica been so far?
It's been good. It's been interesting. Lots of trials and errors though.
Mm. What, trying different strains and stuff?
Yeah.
How would you say you said before when I was talking to you earlier that they're very professional.
Yeah, they're very professional in that. What did I say earlier?
You just said they're very professional, so what do you mean by that?
Well, they're very understanding. It's very medical, but it's laid back in the sense that they put you at ease, and they help you. They start you off on very mild stuff if you're not, because there is a certain percentage of people, and I don't think I'd be in that group, which is you have a lot of people who would self-medicate with all kinds of drugs, hard drugs, or smoke a lot of cigarettes even, which I didn't do because I've got a lot of medical sort of sensitivities and all that. I get asthma attacks around cigarettes. I can't, a lot of things affect me. So as a result, they managed to put me at ease, starting me off on the mostly CBD strains. And then after a while, actually, it switched up to a much higher THC percentage. And I was shocked about that, but it's not about the THC percentage necessarily, it's about the strain. That's most important, and looking at the terpenes, which I'm still trying to get a grip of, an understanding of, because a lot of people don't know what they're talking about. And unfortunately, the only downside, if I had to say there's a downside, is some of these consultants, because they've never tried it before, sometimes they're a bit clueless, but they're very professional in the sense that they're not, they don't discriminate, they're not judgmental, they're there to help you if you've got any issues and things like that. And it's ideal because if you have got conditions like ADHD and ASD, there's no medication for people with autism. And this guy I knew, if it's okay, I go on this tangent.
Yeah.
Right. There was this guy I knew. So one of the first people in this pub right across from the college I went to, and I wasn't 18 yet. So, but he was really into smoking the ganja, whatever.
Yeah.
And he made it quite clear with a beanie hat and the sign on his hat of a leaf. And I'm sort of connected with this guy, even though he didn't go to college, he was a few years older than me. I was still in college, so I'd go over across the road to go to the pub to actually study. And I met him, and he was also there when myself and a bunch of friends would go to the beer garden, he'd be there. And I noticed people didn't give him much of this time of day, and I realized they just couldn't figure out that, well, he showed me a card saying, oh, I have autism or Asperger's or whatever, Asperger's. And I said to him, I didn't notice he had any problems, probably because I'm undiagnosed on the spectrum, and it's just not spotted as easily in women. But anyway, he mentioned all the, I'd ask him questions, sort of in an interview style like you're asking me now. I was just curious as a teenager, so why do you take it, and what are the benefits? And he told me it's so much better than just drinking alcohol. Because he'd show me, say like, look, I can't have this pint, but after that, like any more than that, it's just alcoholism. What's the point? If I'm on the spectrum, I find this stuff helps me self-regulate. And this was back in 2009 when I met the guy. So I was 17, 18 years old, and there was a lot of stigma around it, and like he actually hesitated to offer any stuff to me anyway. Because I probably looked young and naive and stuff, and I was, when I asked him, I was already 18, but I didn't really like the effects of it. And when other friends passed me stuff during the beer garden, and you're not even questioning, it's like, what's this? I'll just have some. I had some, and I just feel a bit like I'm on a roller coaster. So you can, some people, especially on the spectrum, can be hypersensitive to medication, legal, illegal, whatever, prescription drugs, anything really. So I have to be careful. But I find that it helps, greatly benefits people on the spectrum to be more relaxed in social situations without getting sozzled, because I've read some studies. Luckily, I haven't had that problem myself, but there's a lot of people on the spectrum or with ADHD, they self-medicate. So people with ADHD self-medicate with, like, unfortunately, stimulant drugs and sometimes cocaine, nicotine from cigarettes, tons of alcohol, and they find out once they go on the ADHD stuff, ADHD drugs or whatever, they don't even crave alcohol and stuff like that. They don't need no alcohol, no cigarettes, no nothing. That weird craving just to get their brain functioning to adapt, to adapt to society.
Yeah.
Is much a lot easier.
So you mentioned autism, but what do you use medical cannabis for, and how does it help you?
Well, it's interesting because I think originally I'm guessing it was to help treat the practically lifelong crippling depression I've had, but the crippling depression, unfortunately, is a result, and anxiety is a result of undiagnosed ASD and ADHD, and those things can lead to extreme. Well, you're born with it, unfortunately. But you're sensitive to a lot of sounds, lights, everything's just too much. It's very unpleasant. You're just uncomfortable in your skin, the clothes you wear, it's unbearable, and you're sensitive to pain, and then there's having autoimmune conditions and allergies. So there's been times where there's so many foods I couldn't eat, I couldn't enjoy life. And the medical stuff helps with less side effects, I think, than antidepressants. Takes the edge off. So food doesn't taste like cardboard anymore. If you have, let's say, an eating disorder, I wouldn't say I was specifically over an eating disorder case. I have been there, but it was from different, caused by different things, not one. I didn't want to, oh, right, I'm going to have an eating disorder. It didn't happen like that. But the thing is, sometimes people with ADHD and really bad depression, and if you add the allergies, that goes hand in hand with ASD, autism, ADHD, all that stuff, it tends to come with a lot of genetic sensitivity. So, like, a lot of people on the spectrum have joint hypermobility. I don't think I have that, but people in my family do. But joint pain, like, I get arthritis-like pain if I've eaten the wrong food. It feels like somebody got a hammer and then they just smash my kneecaps really hard. I get nerve pain if I have too many artificial foods, things, or colorings. And then, of course, there's this PTSD, which is a major one. PTSD as well as CPTSD, where it can create psychosomatic pain. So you can just re-experience being, like, punched or hit decades later, and you don't realize you're actually re-experiencing a memory, but it's coming back as a somatic memory. So you have no idea why you're suddenly feeling like this agonizing pain in your body, where it feels like somebody's pulled your hair, things like that. And the pain is very much real. And then there's night terrors, not being able to sleep, or having what I used to call daymares. That's how I got diagnosed with PTSD as well, CPTSD, where I'd just be walking around like I'm walking, but I'm experiencing a walking nightmare, or I call them daymares, which is another word, that's my made-up word for flashbacks. I'm just walking around, constantly re-experiencing, just in the moment, the worst possible fear, which spikes to cortisol. You can't think properly, you can't memorize things properly, you can't communicate, you can't be in the moment, and you're just, it's very hard without any help or therapy to navigate this. So essentially, it was I think initially, because of my circumstances, it was prescribed for the PTSD mostly, because that's the big one that gives all these weird ghost symptoms like ghost pains, and then the second one was the allergies caused by autoimmune conditions, which can be triggered through trauma. And then, of course, the ASD, which masquerades, and ADHD, which masquerades as extreme depression and anxiety, where you might simply just be socially inept, and no matter how much practice you do, if you're high functioning and you use masking, which is like 24 method acting, try that. Try to do method acting 24/7 in a foreign language that you don't know very well. That's what it feels like having ASD and ADHD. You just feel like an alien that was put into the wrong body on the wrong planet, and nobody taught you the unspoken rules, and you're just expected to hit the ground running, if that's the right
So how does the medical cannabis help with all those conditions?
It greatly reduces the anxiety. That's a major one. It greatly reduces the flashbacks. It greatly reduces nightmares, and so I can actually sleep. I've noticed already I'm like going because I'm like stuttering, because just talking about it is actually a little bit uncomfortable and traumatic. I mean, it's fine. I'm fine. I'm just saying it's difficult verbalizing these things, but it works. It actually works. Get rid of, I'd say, like 80% of aches and pains that are real or imagined.
And the depression, does it improve your mood?
I'd say it definitely improves the depression, but I don't like the idea that like, I don't know how to put it. It helps the depression, but I don't want to say I'm using it for the depression, if that makes sense. I'm using it for actual inflammation in the body, as well as trauma. So, but the depression has been there for such a long time. I think it's better than, again, prescription antidepressants, though, and anti-anxiety medications, because if you have really bad anxiety, they sometimes will give you stuff that is the equivalent to beta blockers, and that's dangerous. I don't want to start messing around with stuff that affects my blood and blood circulation, and so imagine you're born with a heart murmur and stuff like that. It's not generally dangerous, but if you take all these weird prescription medications with a million side effects, including death and stroke, and heart disease runs on both sides of the family, no thank you. That's something I just want to completely avoid.
So medical cannabis can come in lots of different forms. So what forms of medical cannabis have you tried, and which form do you find has been most helpful for you?
I'm going to say straight away, I don't like the oils, because I thought it would be better, and I was recommended to try the oils rather than like vaporizing it. But oils are weird. I mean, it might work for some people. I definitely think that's more suitable for like children or people with terminally ill diseases and things like that. But yeah, then of course use that stuff. But yeah, my stomach doesn't like digesting a lot of things. So I think the safest way is vaporizing it. But because I'm sensitive to a lot of things, it's very strange. I found that CBD of certain strains helps my breathing. So it helps me breathe properly and expand my lungs. So it helps. So in a weird way, it also helps my asthma. So it's hit or miss, but like some strains, the high THC stuff, I wouldn't say that's probably not going to help breathing issues at all. And you have to be careful and mindful that that's why I want them to sort of legalize it, so there can be more awareness on like tests done to see if some people are slightly more sensitive to certain strains than others. The high THC stuff I find is more for pain relief, nerve pain relief, and psychosomatic pain, and really like unresponsive depression and anxiety. That's just, it's not really working with because I've been on several antidepressants, anti-anxiety meds. They don't really work. I mean, they help, but they completely dull my creativity. They dull my brain, and I actually feel less mentally focused and sharp than, for instance, taking the right strain of
so what about
cannabis.
The strains themselves? So do you prefer sativa, indica, or hybrids?
Well, it's interesting because like I was gonna say I'm very picky, and I'm probably not the norm when it comes to this, but personally I like heirloom indica strains the most. I don't know if it's because it's been least genetically modified or something. I mean, everything's all a hybrid of whatever, but something about indicas, it makes no sense at all. So sativas, for some people, what do they do? Are they considered uplifting for most people?
Yeah, they're considered uplifting and energizing, but sometimes can produce anxiety from sativa.
So I have that issue with anxiety, so I find that it's weird, right? The stuff that puts most people to sleep and makes them calm and helps them fall asleep if I wanted to, the more indica strains with the right kinds of terpenes and all that, it actually wakes me up. So if I want to wake up and get stuff done, like what you call it for ADHD, executive functioning issues. So my short-term memory is terrible. I leave the hobs on, things like that. I can't even do the dishes because my brain is not even producing the right amount of dopamine. Unlike schizophrenia, it's the extreme, it's like the opposite. I don't have enough brain chemicals that rewards me for doing a task. So if I pass a test and I've studied really hard, I feel worse after accomplishing things. So my brain rewards me for doing nothing. It doesn't make any sense really.
So with medical cannabis, try to say the word correctly, how do you find the cost of medical cannabis?
Not too great at the moment. I've noticed if you want some cheaper strains, then yeah, like sativas might be cheaper, I've observed, but unfortunately that stuff, it increases the anxiety, I find, and it doesn't do what I intended it to do. Unfortunately, it's the more expensive stuff that would treat people with like severe PTSD, severe physical problems, like really bad allergies, or they're bedridden, or they have nerve damage or broken spine. A lot of the time, from what I've read, it seems like they're given indica, like heirloom indicas, like some very specific strains of indica stuff. I don't know why, because indica tends to help with certain inflammatory markers. I don't know how else to verbalize it, but sativa, I haven't heard much good news for sativa stuff. Maybe epilepsy or seizures. Like again, I don't know. I've only done research on the stuff that I think would benefit me and certain people. So obviously, I'm more pro indica than pro sativa.
So it's not too expensive then?
It is. I mean, I'd say it is still a bit on the pricey side. It depends what situation you're in. If you're struggling financially, then no, it's not good at all. You might find yourself with nearly nothing at all if you don't have any help, or like how it's expensive, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you don't have the right resources so if you're getting help and stuff like that, then yeah, sure, it's more affordable, but still, I think it's still far too expensive for my liking.
Okay. So how easy or difficult was it for you to get medical cannabis prescribed?
I was really shocked about this. I'd say it was really easy because it had to be referred, or my GP had to verify it or pass on my summary of care. So I'm really shocked because it happened automatically pretty much. It took a little bit, maybe up to a week or so. I just find it interesting that some people, from what I've read, have their GPs refused stuff, right, haven't they? I've heard about it, but I'm really shocked that immediately, straight away, they let me, just no questions asked. It was like done really fast, and I think one of the consultants said, "Oh wow, it was done really fast. That's brilliant." It's just, okay, that's good to know. But it seems like I was one of the prime candidates, meaning almost every single condition I have, physical or mental or genetic, ticks those boxes.
Right.
So it's not like just a depression, anxiety. It's the PTSD and the somatic pains. It's also the ASD, because there's no medication or cure for it, but it helps you integrate yourself more socially with I guess neurotypicals. And
just for people who don't know, what's ASD?
I don't like the new name for it. It's the new DSM term, which it stands for autism spectrum disorder. So in the past it used to be, I hate saying that word, Asperger's, but no one says that. But they removed that because of the connotation that was associated by some German Nazi scientist called Hans Asperger's. Okay. So it's just an outdated terminology, really. And then you've got the low functioning people, which might fit into certain stereotypes, which I don't think I have, but so it's a whole spectrum.
Okay, so this channel is mainly about trying to legalize recreational cannabis. So have you ever used cannabis recreationally?
This is, it's not really. Like, if I had to be honest, like deep down from the bottom of my heart, I'd say no.
You use it for self-medicating or
Yes, that's the really
medicating
weird
reasons,
thing.
yeah.
And like the only time I ever like I never liked the idea of like, oh, here, take some, have something, and peer pressure. I'm like, no, I don't want it. What is it? I don't know. It's really, it's good. That's some good you know, I don't want to swear and get you into trouble. Like,
Yeah.
that's some good stuff. It's got some special stuff. Like, I don't want to know. I don't want it, because the legal stuff is it's laced with stuff, and it happened to me once by accident. Yes, I've gone through tough times where I wasn't thinking, right, I'm going to get really high. No, it was more like, I want to function, so I can read a book, I can study, so I can breathe properly, and so I can get better sleep for the next few days. So I've never gone, yeah, I'm going to get smashed. I don't enjoy the feeling of being high. That's a really weird thing. I just want to feel, I want to feel good, but I want this baseline level of, I want to be functional. Yeah, like I don't want to be walking around blasted with bloodshot eyes or get couch locked and I feel like I'm on a roller coaster, paranoid about police officers showing up around every corner, which is I never enjoyed.
So how would you describe the feeling of using cannabis to someone who's never tried it before?
Right, so it's like, because I've been thinking about this for a long time, it's like being drunk minus all the side effects. Yeah, it's you feel, I guess some people would feel mildly euphoric. You just feel good. It's like somebody turned the light switch on and like, I feel alive inside. It makes you feel warm and tingly. It's sort of like being in love, but I don't want you to get the wrong idea. If, like, whoever's going to be watching this, if you never had a girlfriend or a boyfriend or whatever, and you're like, oh yeah, I better start doing it. No, it's not going to feel like being in love. It's more like a crap analogy where it feels, you just feel alive inside. It's not like, you know, feeling lusty towards somebody. It's not like teenage angst crap, like, oh, I need this person. No, it's not limerence. It's not some delusion. You just feel good, minus the side effects of, let's say, alcohol.
Okay, like no.
Like there's no double vision. You're not slurring your speech. You might, I suppose, act a bit strange if you're on lots of stuff. If you're on the heavier stuff, because some people, some YouTubers I've watched, it's not even about that, but they're on it, and then they, I don't know, they're giving a tarot reading or something, or like some psychic reading, and say, please excuse me if I'm a bit strange. It's because I'm on medical blah blah whatever because of my PTSD or autoimmune conditions.
Yeah.
So the worst it might do is you just might say some really random thing, I suppose, and be a bit silly, but it's not. It's really not comparable to being like smashed off your face, drunk or something. I don't know. I've never heard of a violent stoner.
What do you think about legalizing cannabis for recreational use in the UK?
For recreational use, again, that word throws me off, but I'd like to say that I think it would be a good thing, definitely a good thing, but at the same time, the whole word recreational throws me off a little bit. I think it needs to be, I don't want to say regulated, it needs to be, it needs to come with some guidance. There needs to be some kind of medical cannabis therapist or something, like people who've actually had the stuff before or have had relatives who've taken it before, in context of it being medical, to give them advice, to help them find the right strains, because like some stuff is just not, everyone's very different, so it might be hit or miss, and it needs more, there needs to be more information on the profiles of the individual strains, and so if it becomes legal, that means there can be more tests done for allergies and things like that, because I think it's important that there's an awareness of it, because let's face it, as rare as it may sound, some people are sensitive to certain strains. Like I don't know if I was going through a phase where I was reacting to everything and my immune system was overreacting to everything. But there were times when I walked on the way to college, then like rude older bad boys or whatever would just blow smoke in my face, laugh at me, and I'd get like little itchy lumps in my throat. But I was reacting to the hay fever pollen as well. So back then, like, was it because it was illegal? Was it because it had mold on it as well? There's the issue of the illegal stuff being not produced correctly, and it just like it's getting developing mold spores, and that to me is lethal.
So that leads me on to this question then. So what do you think the benefits of legalizing recreational cannabis would be?
Could you repeat the question again?
So what do you think the benefits of legalizing recreational cannabis would be? More testing?
Yeah, cleaner supply of stuff, nothing that's been laced and sprayed with God knows what, because there's been stuff that's been sprayed with DMT. So that sounds fun, but it's not fun if you start having an allergic reaction, your throat's closing up and you're getting itchy and dizzy and your heart's beating at 1,000,000 miles an hour. That is not good whatsoever.
Some cannabis has been laced with things like spice and fentanyl as well.
Oh my god.
Which can be deadly, both of those.
When did that start becoming a thing? Because I think that's more recent than when I first tried it.
Yeah, that is more recent. It's over the last couple of years in America.
Couple of years.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
So you've spoken a lot about it now, so coming to the end. So what stigmas around cannabis need to change, in your opinion?
That's it. It doesn't make you a good for nothing stoner bum stereotype. I mean, there are people like that, but those people, I'm starting to realize that might have been part of a personality or like identity thing. We got, with or without the stuff, if you know what I mean. So it's like there's a percentage of people that don't take it to get high. They're doing it so they can improve their lives, so they can actually work, so they can function. It's not even about being high whilst you're doing certain tasks. It's more like it removes a certain burden of like physical pain if you've got nerve problems or joint pain, or it doesn't always have to just be a case of you've got a mental blockage. Your body could actually just simply be so inflamed you need something that will help lessen the inflammation to get ABC done without making a mountain out of a molehill.
So there's a lot of countries have recently legalized cannabis, for example, Germany, Canada, Malta, Uruguay, South Africa. So how do you feel about that when you think about other countries legalizing cannabis?
Well, all I know is the Germans are probably laughing at us Brits. We're just a joke to them. If stiff upper lip, uber strict when it comes to time management and engineering Germans are legalizing hippy dippy stuff, what does that say about us Brits? We're like stuck in the Victorian Dark Ages or something, where showing an ankle is considered scandalous. Well, they used to cover the table chair legs because they're too arousing to Victorian men, and it reminded them of women's legs. So
you think we're a bit repressive in this country?
Yes, I mean for instance, the medical dental system is really backwards. It's one of the most backwards in the world by first world standards, and waiting lists and all that stuff. So we have some of the worst. Like it's not just that. So it would be nice if we could catch up with this medical stuff. Yeah.
So there's a new government just come in, a Labour government. Do you have a cannabis-related message for the new Labour government?
Just legalise it already. Just do it already, because if you don't, it might give some people some ideas who might, out of provocation, choose to swing the other way and vote for people that aren't going to benefit them. That is the opposite to a Labour government, but they might use that as a weapon against the Labour Party. If they see that Labour are being strict on that, maybe other parties will consider, well, Labour's not legalising it. Why don't we use this as the carrot on the stick
Yeah.
to lure these young people with medical conditions to vote for us? And then 90% of their manifestos are really bad, totalitarian, fascists, governments or whatever. I mean, okay, I'm not saying it's that bad, but in the last 10 years, we've just been under really strict, austere
So you're
governments.
saying if
that's
Labour want to stay in power, they should legalise cannabis because otherwise the other parties might get the idea that they'll do it instead.
Yes, so we used a sort of like,
Okay.
what would you call it? Controlled opposition? I don't know, like throw big words just for the sake of it, but it just can be used as a sort of, not
As a
blackmail,
weapon.
like manipulation, article
Yeah.
kind of stuff. I don't know.
Right, everyone, thank you very much for watching. Thanks to Ilena for joining us from Accidental Warrior. And remember, we are trying to legalise recreational cannabis in the UK. Good night.
Good night.